years ago this week, back in 1988, one of the top hits in the USA was by Tracy Chapman, a song about her dream of getting in a fast car and driving to a better life. I'll have details and that top hit after this.
American Top 40.
We're coming to you from Hollywood, and at number 27 this week, moving up 10 impressive notches, is the first hit by a singer and songwriter from Cleveland. Rolling Stone magazine called her 1988's best new artist. They wrote her subtle, expressive songs about poverty and racism speak for themselves. They're talking about 24-year-old Tracy Chapman. Here she is with Fast Car.
You get a fast car, I want a ticket to anywhere. Maybe we make a deal. Maybe together we can get somewhere.
Casey's Top 40.
And moving up a notch to number 7 on Casey's Top 40 is Tracy Chapman, a woman who began singing in public during the time she attended Tufts University in the Boston suburb of Medford, Massachusetts. When she wasn't busy with her studies, Tracy would sing in the streets of Harvard Square and in coffee houses and nightclubs. Nowadays, Tracy's singing all over the radio.
Casey's Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. Well, now we're up to the number 1 song in the USA on Casey's Top 40, and it's by a singer who used to entertain her classmates on an old broken-down guitar. It was in such bad shape that her school's chaplain took up a collection to buy her a new one. The woman who sings this week's number 1 grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. She was a very bright, gifted student, but her family was poor, and they couldn't afford to send her to a special school where her talents could really be challenged and developed. Her teachers in school recognized her potential, and they helped her get a scholarship to a private school in Connecticut called the Wooster School. The scholarship covered her tuition, books, room, and board, but there wasn't money for any incidentals, and so many of her possessions were hand-me-downs, including an old guitar. It wasn't in very good shape, but that didn't dampen her spirit, and it didn't stop her from writing and singing songs. She sang those songs for her fellow students and sometimes for the faculty, and they were so touched by the teenager's talent and determination that the school chaplain, the Reverend Robert Tate, decided to take up a collection and buy the student a new guitar. And when he told everyone what he wanted to do, they gladly chipped in. In time, the teenager took her new guitar to Boston, where she continued to make music, and in 1988, when she released her debut album, one of the people she thanked and credited was the man who helped her get that guitar, the Reverend Robert Tate. These days, instead of playing songs for her friends at school, the woman is playing her songs for fans all over the world, songs like the one that this week is now the biggest hit in the land. The brand new number 1 song in the USA on Casey's Top 40 is Give Me One Reason, the first number 1 for Tracy Chapman.
Casey counts them down.
Now we're up to Give Me One Reason. It's by a woman who recently gave a very special performance at a high school in Texas to reward a 15-year-old who wrote a song about a dog. The 15-year-old, a teenager named Liberty Merriman, was the winner in this year's Scholastic Write Lyrics program. It's a songwriting contest sponsored by Scholastic Magazine, Microsoft, Elektra Records, and Warner Music. This year, 12,000 entries poured in from all over the country, and the grand prize was a concert by the singing star who would also pick the winner, folk rocker Tracy Chapman. Of all the lyrics submitted, Tracy chose a song written by Liberty Merriman from the Fort Worth suburb of Keller, Texas. It's a country song called Old Dog, about a dog who shares in the longing for a lost love. As part of her prize, Liberty got a multimedia computer from Microsoft. And on May 22nd, the students at her school, Keller High, got a special 2-hour concert from Tracy. The students loved it, and so did the singer, who also spent some time talking with the teenagers. She encouraged them to pursue a very broad education, to develop goals in life, and to stick to those goals no matter what. Well, recently, Tracy accomplished a goal of her own when this song became her first number 1.
America's Top Hits.
2 years ago this week, one of the top hits in the USA was the comeback hit for a singer who says what she does between albums is disappear. This singer-songwriter says growing up in Cleveland, she always dreamed about one day seeing the world. She swore to herself that someday she was going to see it all. And after she put out her first album in 1988 and her follow-up album in 1989, she started making her dream of seeing the world come true. Along with some friends, she traveled across America and Europe, and all the while writing songs and music for her next album. 3 years later, in 1992, that album came out. And once again, after she finished it, she was off traveling. 4 years later, she came back with an album's worth of songs that she called New Beginning, an album that included the song that brought her back to the singles chart after an 8-year absence.
America's Top Hits.
12 years ago this week, back in 1988, one of the top hits in the USA was by Tracy Chapman, a song about her dream of getting in a fast car and driving to a better life. Tracy Chapman grew up in a poor section of Cleveland. She came from a broken family where her mother had to work day and night to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. She says she often daydreamed about a time that there'd be enough money to pay the bills and that she could live in a nice house. That dream stayed with her as she evolved into a songwriter. And it became her very first hit. A song about just getting in her car and driving away from those hard times. A song that was one of the top hits in the USA 12 years ago this week. Here's Tracy Chapman with Fast Car.
I had a feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
American Top 40.